So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for this month's Wellness Wednesday. My name is Jillian Schultz. I'm the program director for the Parkinson Association of the Carolinas, and I'm very excited for today's presentation about traveling with Parkinson's disease. Darci Parnoud is going to lead our presentation today. She's an occupational therapist and opened the Back to Independence Rehab here in Charlotte. She leads power moves classes and other therapies for people with Parkinson's and other conditions as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Darci. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll make sure we have time for questions at the end as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jillian. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So today we're going to talk about traveling with Parkinson's. And definitely let me know if you want any of the resources that I speak about or have questions at the end. Hopefully we'll have time. So a little bit about me. I've been an occupational therapist for about 20 years. I've been in the Charlotte area for about 8. I have a disability gym where our goal is to bridge the gap from therapy to fitness. So as Jillian mentioned, I've run some power moves class. And if you're not familiar with rehab specialization for Parkinson's, you ideally want to look for a therapist that may have LSVT or power PWR specialization. That means after our schooling, we go to special coursework to specialize and know what does the research and the evidence say to help coach our persons with Parkinson's in the community to help them best follow what's going to help you guys move better, feel better, and hopefully slow the progression of Parkinson's. So today we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to get through the not as fun stuff, but we'll end with the fun information. So we're going to talk about how to be medically prepared to travel, how to consider special fall prevention strategies, how to consider any dementia considerations, see how we can use movement to our advantage to have the best vacation or leisure trip, to move better and feel better with our Parkinson's symptoms. Make sure we're enjoying our leisure. So I have some tips on if there's ways to get you out and more active if you have any barriers, some travel strategies and tips for care partners. So first, we want to make sure we're medically prepared. So looking at your medication, make sure that you pack enough with you. And you also want to make sure that it's on your person, on your carry-on. You don't want your luggage to get lost and misplace your meds and then be far from home without access to it. So if you have some that you keep on you just to dispense throughout the day or your travels, that's fine. But you want to take ideally your medications in their bottles so that if there's a refill need, you've got all the refill information. You can go to a local pharmacy and get that filled without any slow progression or challenges to refill your medications. So you might want to consider something small to travel with and then something in your carry-on with you so that you can still have it close, not get lost, to be best prepared. And then also you want to consider if you're traveling, time goes by differently. You might be waiting around a lot. You might be traveling to a different time zone. So consider, is there a time change? Have a plan ahead of time what you're going to do with your medication management. You might want to talk to your physician or your pharmacist because let's say I was just in Tucson, Arizona a few weeks ago, and there's a 3-hour time change. So I was waking up at 3 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. for my work day. So what would you do in a situation where maybe there's a few hour change? Are you going to stay on your same schedule and wake up early in the morning to take your meds, or are you going to snooze a little bit later? And you also might want to look at what does your itinerary look on your trip? When do you need to make sure that you're maximizing your medications to help you move better and feel better? So just to have a plan before you get there will make it smoother, and that way you won't have to make sure that there's any bumps in your road during your trip. So if anyone doesn't have one of these hospital safety guides, I highly, highly suggest that you get one. Everything that I'm going to suggest for this medical preparedness is in these booklets. Oh, sorry, mine's blurry. You can go online and you can download it. You can ask for them to ship you one for free. So this is an amazing resource. They used to have a travel kit. This is from the Parkinson's Foundation that was in a bag, but they've transitioned to this just booklet. And so what I have listed on the slide are these blank templates in it. So there's a medical alert card, there's a medication form. You can fill it out and handwrite it, or you can download it on the website and you can type it in or fill it in. So this way, when you travel, if something happens, you've got all your medication listed right there. And you don't have to maybe be in pain or some emergency come up. You don't want to be thinking, oh, well, what's my medication? If you already have it that you can hand to the EMS team with the ambulance, or you can take it to the ER or anyone that may be giving you medical care, if you can just hand it off or take a picture on your phone, that's going to save you a lot of time. For example, I was in Tucson, Arizona at a Parkinson's retreat, and we were leading an intense exercise week. And so we took everyone's medical inventory and the people that came in and had a list on their phone or had a pre-printed form. It was just nice and convenient and organized compared to some people that didn't have their medication planned. They were questioning what was their dosage, what was the name of the medication. And so it was just harder. So imagine if, and I was taking time to sit down and interview them to take their intake before their exercise week. If you have an emergency come up, it's going to be harder to focus. And so you don't want to be under extreme situations of maybe a fall or something to have come up and not have your medications just easily accessible, especially because there's some medications that you should not be taking that conflict with your meds. So you want to make sure you get your medications correct. So if you have this booklet, or maybe talk to your pharmacist if they can print out a list, or your medical team, or if you have a portal access that you can easily look at your med list from your physician, have a plan beforehand. And then you could just update it over time as things change, but that was really going to help you in the long term. And so this safety guide has things that you can write it all in. It makes life much easier. So I recommend for you to get that. Also in this handout or the safety guide, it has things you can tear out of the booklet and you can give to the healthcare team. So what I've learned from community members with Parkinson's is sometimes it's an unfortunate experience to realize as a healthcare professional myself, I go to school and I learn how to serve everyone from premature infants all the way through our ages with different disabilities and diseases and needs. And so if I didn't work with Parkinson's, I'd be pretty rusty on how to best serve the population. So just think about our doctors, our nurses in the healthcare setting. They may not be super up to date on the best care for someone with Parkinson's, but in this safety guide, you can rip out the sheet, you can hand it to them. What I like about some of the handouts, it has special considerations that you can check in it. So we're going to go to the next page that kind of has an example of it. So it gives you a medication form. You can have your doctor's information. It can say that you have a deep brain stimulator, or now it's getting more of these medication pumps are coming out, but your healthcare team, if they're not Parkinson specialized, they're probably not going to be familiar with all the new medication changes. So if you're a pump user, you want to make sure they understand what that is, or they can look it up to best serve you. Also communicate if you've got dementia or low blood pressure and dizziness. So I like this form. It kind of has easy way to fill out the form, some check boxes so that you can best be prepared. They've created it for you so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It also has an emergency contact list. So say maybe something happens to your care partner or your spouse, then it's got someone else that you guys can call that can help you in an emergency situation. And that way, if something happens, say a car accident to you and who you're traveling with, that will help you communicate how to get someone else to help support you guys in an unfortunate event. Let's see. So you might just kind of want to be aware where you're traveling. Are there medical facilities close by? You could even, if you're checking into a hotel, ask how far away the local hospital is. Where's a local drugstore if you need drug refills or something that's going to help serve you on your trip to set you up for smooth sailing and a good experience. So maybe just being familiar, or if you're not familiar with GPS use of your smart device, maybe practice typing or talking to your phone, find the local hospital, find the nearest emergency room. That way, if there was an event, you've already practiced how to find where you should go to get your needs addressed should you need them. All right, we got the medical stuff out of the way. So we've got our medications prepared. We're traveling with our meds. We've got our emergency contact list. So now we're going to make sure we can stay safe so we have a great vacation. So this is a picture of me with some unique hiking poles where we actually did hiking poles to help increase our intensity for exercise and big movement. So if you like to hike, but maybe need something for balance, or if you want to increase your activity, you could talk to your therapist for how to stay safe so that you can enjoy being outdoors or move big and get your activity in. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But you want to look at what equipment do you use every day? Do you need something to go with you? Will your walker fold down? Will your wheelchair, how can that go in different cars? On the plane, have a trip for what your mobility is. And then also think about what the distance you may need to cover. You might want to request a wheelchair service at the airport, not being sure maybe where your gate is. It might kind of expedite your travels through security and help maybe cut the line down a little bit for quicker access so that you can get to your gate quicker. And also just to decrease any anxiety that comes with traveling. And also, especially if you're having flights that are switching and you need to get from one gate to another, sometimes you can't always get to your flight might be delayed a little bit. So if you have wheelchair services already set up, they can help you get to the next gate for your transferred flight. And then you don't have to worry about, well, where am I going to be when I arrive? Where's the next gate? If that helps you knowing that you've got a wheelchair set up, that might help reduce some anxiety and help assist you with your travels. You can also look at maybe are there rental options so that you don't need to pack or purchase something ahead of time. You might have it on the other end. I just talked with one of our Parkinson's exercise class members, and he said when he took a cruise most recently, he was fortunate to have someone allow him to borrow their scooter, and that he learned he could have rented a scooter option because it was very congested and crowded. And for him, it was an awesome opportunity to have that scooter for his mobility needs while he was on the cruise. And so maybe knowing what a scooter looks like or how does it function ahead of time or just what could be an option to help serve you more on your trip. And then make sure that everything's in good shape. Sometimes wheelchair brakes can get bent out of shape or they can maybe be a little bit loose. So if you're in a new environment, standing up or in different bathrooms, make sure that your chair is in good shape to serve you best, and it's not going to add another level of challenge or strain while you're traveling. My poles that I have in my picture, you just see the top handles. I had a large suitcase, so I was actually able to collapse them and put them in. There are special hiking sticks that you can get specifically for traveling. So that's something that you can consider. I do recommend if you're looking at some different hiking poles, if you have a therapist in your life that you've utilized before, you might want to ask them about how to best use them. They're not all created equal, and you want to make sure that you're being safe if you are trying to add some type of mobility device into your routine or your travels. And also look at what's the terrain. Are you going to be on all flat surfaces? When I was hiking, I was on a very kind of hilly golf course. So if you're going to be walking outdoors, if you're going to be going somewhere that's cold and icy, or on a sand surface where the sand's going to compress out from underneath you, have you practiced in a situation like that? Is there a way that you can practice and be prepared for your balance, or maybe add a mobility device to make you safer to limit any fall risks? So if you're flying, come up with a plan beforehand. If you have a plan and you've thought about your travels ahead of time, it's going to reduce any anxiety. So know, where are you going to park? Where are you going to check your luggage? Are you checking your luggage? Or are you carrying it to the gate? Give yourself plenty of time so that you can get situated, you can use the restroom, you can get a snack, you have time to take your medication. Make sure that you're looking at what are the times that you need to take your medications in relation to your flight and your airlines. When you go through security, you should not have any liquids. So will you plan to purchase water on the other side of security or something to drink to take your medication? Or are you maybe going to travel with a water bottle that you can refill or purchase water so that you have hydration so you can take your medications? Especially if there's something slowed down and maybe the flight attendants aren't able to help serve you while you're on the flight, you may not be able to get your medications taken with water if they're not able to serve you in that specific needed time. And let's limit that off time when possible of your medications. Um, and and I encourage you to advocate for yourself and not hesitate to speak out. Maybe you haven't used a wheelchair service before. Ask your airline. Go online. There's TSA Cares online that talks all about how to utilize their services. There's a phone number that you can call them so that you can ask all your questions. Where should I meet you? How do I need to reserve a chair? Understand how the system goes, and that's way you'll be prepared and have a plan before you arrive. So if you're staying at a hotel and not a friend's home, you can look at accessible rooms, especially if you're using a wheelchair or if the stairs are not your friend right now, or it's just going to cause you to be more fatigued, then maybe look at, can you stay on the ground floor? So if there's an elevator break or an emergency fire, you don't have to worry about navigating the stairs. Or do you need some grab bars to keep safer in the bathroom? A new, different environment. The flooring could be different. There could be different types of tile, or the drainage system might not be as ideal, or the shower curtains might be a little different. So think about how you can be safe in a bathroom. If it's an accessible room, it should be larger doorways, larger access into the bathroom, and should have some grab bars as well. I work with a very large wheelchair community. And so just to let you know, sometimes they will reserve a room, they use wheelchairs full time. And I commonly will hear stories that they reserve the room, they call the day before, they arrive at the hotel, and the hotel people have been told, oh, well, we gave that room to someone else. If you need that space, really advocate for yourself, hold them accountable. Document who you called to confirm your accessible room so that you can say, you confirm this. This is my right. This is the room that I got, so that you can be safe and enjoy the rest of your trip. All right. If you have any dementia considerations, I want you to think ahead. Are there things to help you remember your itinerary? Could you print out a list of what your plan is? Contact information for where you want to go, for who you're meeting up with. If you're looking at rental cars or people are picking you up, make sure that you've got maybe a plan of how to contact them, or think about how you can make a schedule. So that way, if someone has some dementia needs and they're not quite as familiar, they're not in their regular routines or environment, you can have a list of an itinerary. So those people know what to expect. You can refer for them to look at the itinerary. And then that way they understand the plan, they know what to expect. That can help reduce any anxiety to make for a smoother experience for everybody. And then also we talked a little bit about time change or alarms you can set for medication. See how else maybe you can help do that with any cognitive reminders, utilizing your phone for navigation tips, or reminders to do things since you're going to be out of your normal routine and environment. So let's make sure that we're also setting our care partners or our spouses up for success, talking about the plan ahead of time, expectations for who's managing the bags, the luggage, the parking. Just have a conversation of what to expect so that everyone is on the same page. If your person needs some assistance, then you might talk about how you can organize waking up differently or allowing enough time to be able for everyone to get ready, to make sure that there's an understanding of how much assistance you may need. Uh, and I have had other people look at caregiving assistances at their destination. So if your loved one or your person with Parkinson's wants you, the care partner, maybe to relax more, you might also consider seeing on your destination end, is there some caregivers services or home care agencies that can help with some dressing or bathing or ADLs, so that you guys can decide how much assistance you want to provide on your travels, or if you want to look into any assistance, that it could be an option. So just like you may have a regular routine at home, if that helps with any dementia, or just regularity routines, especially with taking your medications, eating food with when you need to take your medications or not, try to stick to those routines. That can help you greatly with your success of your trip and reduce any anxiety. You might want to research and look up your destination to understand what's there. If you need to run to the drugstore to get any kind of snacks or food, or know what's expected of you. Do you need a rental car to go places? Can you walk places? What's that area familiar with? And then also make sure that you've got some fun activities planned. And if you schedule ahead, that can help set you up for success and reach out to people to communicate or ask for your needs and how they can be best served. So let's talk about movement. So one of the best things you can do with Parkinson's is exercise. If you love to exercise, then you might have a vacation built around movement and exercising. If you do not love to exercise, then that may not sound like a good trip for you. So you might want to consider, how can you get movement in your day so that you're not as stiff and rigid? How can you get your heart rate up a little bit to help maximize your dopamine and function more? So think about what's on your trip. Maybe you're walking through a museum. Maybe you're going to the zoo. Are you navigating to visit someone at a college campus? What's that distance going to be? That's awesome exercise opportunity. So if you can get a lot of steps in, or if you're visiting someone with stairs, that's a great way to get exercise. Or maybe there's a hotel fitness facility. So you can fit fitness in, whether it is structured exercise, using a fitness facility. But even if you're in your room and you don't want to go to a fitness facility, look at other options. You can pull up a YouTube exercise video. I do know that Amita, that's sponsored by the Parkinson's Association of the Carolinas, does a virtual yoga class. Do you want to set up time to stream in so that you can get some nice movement and stretching with Amita on your trip? Or see if there's any pre-recorded exercise sessions of someone that you know, or there's tons of Parkinson's exercise classes on YouTube that you can look up and try something different while you travel. So there's virtual options. You can even look at in-person options, and see what's available to wherever your destination is. So make sure you're taking time for you. Traveling, sitting around waiting for your flight, or sitting in a vehicle might make you really stiff and tight. So make sure that you're finding time to, whether it's your regular routine or maybe make extra effort to get some stretching in. This could be first thing in the morning. This could be traveling to a yoga class or streaming a yoga class to wherever you are virtually, or just running your listening to your body and seeing where you feel tight and taking the time to do some nice deep breathing, to do some stretching so that you can feel better, you can move more and be more successful in the things that are important to you during your travels. This can also just be taking time. Sometimes visiting family can be stressful. So if you know that those dynamics might arise on your trip, are you taking some time to maybe do some meditation, do some mindfulness, to help you maximize, uh, reduce anxiety, increase relaxation so that you can enjoy your visit or your travels? So I wanted to make sure that we're also looking at hydration and nutrition. This is super important, not only just regularly, but while you travel. When we travel, we may not be eating as many home cooked things where we're choosing what we want to eat. There might be more fried food, more processed food, more sugary treats that are going to entice us. So, first of all, make sure that you're hydrated. If you're not drinking enough, you could potentially get a UTI. You could be dehydrated. You may not be thinking as clear as you could. So make sure you can travel with a water bottle. You could refill it before you leave every morning. You could buy bottled water while you're out, but have some type of plan. And I'm sure, as most of you know, it's very common for persons with Parkinson's uh, to have a lack of hydration, but also low blood pressure. If you've got low blood pressure, you may have low blood volume. So by drinking more water, it's going to help you be more successful, not only day to day, but to keep in mind while you travel. Also, look at what you're eating. Today in our exercise class, we talked a little bit about nutrition, and our focus was on kind of snack foods, and we talked about eating lots of nuts and berries. So the nuts that look like brains, cashews, pecans, walnuts, the darker the berry, the better. If that's something that you can, I find you can get nuts at like CVS, so it doesn't always have to be a grocery store. It can be a drugstore. Most gas stations will have like trail nuts or a nut mix. So then you can know that you're getting some fiber, some good healthy oils, and those are awesome for Parkinson's. So you can look at some healthy snacks that will help you while you're traveling and not be tempted by maybe lots of things that you're not used to help fuel you for your fun on your trip. So if you're concerned or you want to do something, but you don't think you can do it like you used to, I wanted to give you guys some ideas for some different modifications or adaptations to get you active and get you out of the house or be more adventurous. So if you need to use a wheelchair, you can look at different rentals at your destination to help you go further distances. Or if you're concerned about your endurance or your safety, think about maybe utilizing a wheelchair at your destination to be more successful. Do some internet researching. If that's not your strong suit, ask for some help from a family or friend to see what they can help you find for potential mobility needs. And then make sure that you kind of have a plan. And if you are renting a wheelchair, do you know how to put it into a vehicle so that you can get around with it? Or just like if you go to the grocery store, there's scooters available for you. If you're going to a museum or a zoo, and I even know Carowinds here has scooters that you can rent. So your destination or wherever you're going to might already have some mobility devices able for you, but they might only have a limited amount. So you might need to really think ahead and reserve those because I know Carowinds only has a finite amount of scooters. So if you don't reserve it in advance, it's going to go to someone else that reserved it ahead of you. So recently, when I went to this Parkinson's retreat, I met this couple that run Pass to Pass. Now, I know this is on the West Coast, so this might be far from you, but there are some awesome Parkinson specific opportunities out there. So you might even just do an internet search and see what's out there. This is an organization specific to get people hiking with Parkinson's. So if you're a person with Parkinson's, you get your llama to help travel your heavy equipment. And then there's different types of paths, but they are very familiar with Parkinson's. They exist solely to help people with Parkinson's to be successful, to get outside, to get hiking. And so I just thought this was an awesome opportunity that I wanted to share. I don't know if there's anything on the East Coast. Sometimes I just don't know what I don't know. I just discovered this. So maybe there's something closer to us that you guys can use to help set you up for success, have people that are very familiar with any of your needs that you may need to help you get outdoors or be active. I think this group does a lot of like tent camping. So if you're not a tent camper, this might not be for you, but I think they also have like day hike options. So it's got a variety of different hiking abilities that they help with. So I love them so much. I put more of the llama hiking in my picture. But also, I want you to look ahead at how you can best prepare for your trip. So if you have an occupational therapist, a physical therapist, someone that you're doing exercise or training with, if you have any concerns about your balance or your stamina or want tips, since they know you at home, you might ask them, how can I best prepare for my trip? Should I rent something? Should we look at some hiking poles and teach me how to do it so that I can be best prepared? You don't want to wait till you're on your trip and introduce a new mobility device or rough terrain. So you might need to start practicing walking more, different types of terrain to prepare for where you're going. You might need to practice like for this hiking llama adventure, maybe need to practice simulating getting out in and out of a tent and on and off the ground, putting on a backpack, utilizing a sleeping bag. So if you're using a hotel room and the bed height's different than you're used to, or maybe you're staying with family and you can call them ahead of time and just ask about their guest bedroom space or where you'd be sleeping. Ask them, what's the bed height? Is that going to change how you scoot and move into the bed so that you're prepared? And then you can use like a physical therapist to help work with your endurance, your big movement. If you're not typically used to getting in and out of an elevator, sometimes that does create a freezing of a gait for people. So if you notice that you're freezing a little bit with changing of directions or going through a doorway, you might want to get a nice tune up with your therapy team to work on freezing of gait techniques so that you can go to the hotel and get on and off the elevator more successfully, not having any freezing episodes. So make sure you're utilizing your rehab team. And if you don't have one, ask for a referral from your physician. If you foresee that there might be some barriers, or even if you're having some hesitancy, know that you have a rehab team around you in town that you can use for that. And then also, if you're traveling, you know that the diet might be different. You might be tempted by not as great of food options. Look at maybe what you can do so the bathroom habits are going to be more successful. So we talked about taking a water bottle with you, refilling that water. Um, One of my things that I like to do for myself after I'm tired of drinking water, I like the different electrolyte mixes. I usually choose some that don't have sugar in them to add more calories. And that way it helps me drink quicker. I've got a different flavor to add into my hydration plan, and that helps me stay more hydrated. Especially if you're going to somewhere that's going to be really hot or a lot drier, you want to make sure that you've got a good hydration plan prepared ahead of time. So a few tips that I wanted to give you. This image is of our exercise retreat. So this looks like a big playground to me. And so we just had lots of different obstacles and things to do. So maybe you're doing a fitness-based exercise, or this was a retreat just for persons with Parkinson's. So there are opportunities out there. There's even a therapy organization. I think they're in Oregon. They're called Destination Rehab. They bill your insurance and they are all outdoors. So if you like to kayak and hike, they hang harnesses up from trees so that you can work on balance and stability, but you can be out in the woods. So that can be an option that maybe you can go exercise, get therapy, be outdoors, and they can help you also be beneficial. Um, so anyway, some helpful things to bring. Ask your therapy team. We just talked about if you have a PT or OT, utilize since they're going to know you best. But maybe if you know that you're not a great traveler, that it does make you have more anxiety getting to the gate on time or meeting your flight. Maybe if you can reduce the noises, that might help you relax more on the plane or waiting in the airport. So you can consider some noise cancellation headphones. If you're having some tremors or fine motor changes, you might want to consider some easier shoes to slip on and off. So that can help you get up and go with your day, or as you're relaxing, you can slip your socks and shoes on and off more easily. So there's lots of different type of shoe options that you can look at, different types of shoestrings. Maybe there's elastic shoestrings, so you don't have to worry about tying them and they can just stay fit, or there's some shoestrings that don't tie and you can just put into your shoes. Consider what your travel bags are going to look like. Do you have a wheeled luggage? Is that going to work best for you? Are you being adventurous? Do you need to practice taking your backpack on and off so you can be more successful? And also look at the weight that it's going to be. Is it going to cause more strain on your back? Are you working out so you can stay active and prepare for your trip? Or do you need to consider different types of luggage to make sure that it's setting you up for success? If you use any adaptive tools, make sure you can pack them with you, keep them close by so you don't lose them in any luggage. Also looking at airlines, it's very common to have swelling if you're in high altitudes or depending on your environment for your destination. If you know that you're prone to swelling, maybe look at some compression socks so that you don't have swelling in your feet. They're going to slow you down, make your movement any more challenging. If you have any medical devices that use batteries or chargers, make sure that you have a plan with your charger or have extra batteries for you to utilize. If you're using your mobility devices, or like I took my travel urban poles, I made sure they could fit in my luggage so I could take them with me. And if you need like a seated environment in the shower, is that accessible at your hotel? Is that going to be at your friend or family members if you're staying at their home? Can you order something on Amazon to deliver it there? Or do they have a church or religious facility that takes in used devices and maybe they can borrow it and there's a loaning library that they can borrow a wheelchair or a walker or bathroom equipment. So some community resources are out there so that you can use equipment, or maybe ask if you're staying with someone, do they know anybody or any places that can loan you equipment for your stay if it's not for long-term use. So today I hope to give you guys some tips to travel more successfully. Yes, Parkinson's changes things, but with planning, flexibility, and support, the world's still open for adventure. So I wish you guys well, hoping that you can find some fun travels, whether it's this summer or throughout the year. I think traveling can be empowering. Make sure that you make your journey a safe and fun one. And I also encourage you, the more that you can get out and try new things can boost your dopamine. So if you need an incentive to plan a trip or something different and outside the norm, there is great research behind doing new things that will help boost your dopamine, which will help you feel better and move better. And if you have ever any questions or you're looking for an exercise community, I've got my email and my phone number. If I can be a resource to you, I'd love to be one.
Thank you so much. That was great. Um, I think, well, I love the llamas, but
No.
I think traveling is so empowering and, is still possible throughout life with whatever accommodations are needed to make it possible. I know there's some questions in the chat, so we'll go ahead and answer those. And then if you have any questions, you can add them to the chat or feel free to unmute. But there is a question, how do you handle vivid dream episodes?
So I would look at what are your normal experiences with that. See who's living at home with you, or if you're staying with a friend in the same or different bed. Have a plan, have a discussion so that you're not concerned or have anxiety about knowing what to expect. I would also talk to your healthcare team and see what your physician recommends. And look at what's your normal routine. If you're going to switch your routine up a lot, if you're in a different environment, then that's going to already put you in maybe a confused or outside the norm situation. It might make things more complicated. So I think sticking to a closer routine, having a plan, talking about your plan ahead of time is going to help you have a more successful experience, hopefully. I did have a few things that I did not mention that I would like to. So I've been polling my community members in my exercise class with Parkinson's on what they found was successful or helpful. They recommended the wheelchair rental or use at the airport. I also had someone say not to be worried about tremors in the like X-ray security machine, that wasn't a barrier, and they were successful because they made sure they knew that their hands would shake and told the security guards, and they said it wasn't an issue. But also know if you don't like the round machine, you can ask to be in the X-ray machine. So just advocate for your needs, whether it's to help with mobility and distance or to reduce anxiety, knowing that there's going to be a lot of people, especially if you travel at high peak travel time on the weekends, or busier times.
Yeah, I think advocating with TSA and everything at the airport can be very helpful. Um, my son has a medical condition, and we've always had to go through with a lot of medications and a lot of different things, and just making sure that they knew as far as the screening process for him. You can, if you're traveling with with your caregiver, you can, like, if you are being screened separate from, the big round machines or anything like that, you can request that they're with you for that as well. So you don't have to go alone for that.
Yeah. And there is a pretty good website on Charlotte Douglas Airport that talks about accessibility, and there's a phone number you can call. I'm going to be on the airport accessibility committee. So if you have any good or bad experiences that I can help be an advocate for you to help them make a better experience, please feel free to call me or email me. I would love your feedback because I rely on community members such as yourself to know about your experiences so that I can help bring that to the committee to adjust and better serve you.
That's great. So there is another question in the chat. Any specific tips for cruises or bus or train travel?
Oh, good question. So for cruises, I would look at what's the size of the boat, how many people are on it, uh, have a good plan that it might be rocking a little bit more. Even big ships will have a little bit of movement. Do you have any inner ear dizziness concerns? Uh, do you feel like your balance is already off a little bit? And then do you have a plan for that? Do you maybe want to take a mobility device such as a cane or a walker just to set you up for success? Do you want to rent a scooter or have a plan so that you can get around on the ship and not worry about? So one of our community members in class, he said the scooter just helped him. It was such a mass of people that it helped him navigate without being less steady on his feet. So helped him with his endurance. I will say on the other end of that, he said he used the scooter. I think it was like a 5 or 6 day cruise. He used it so much, he was less physically active. And so he actually was more stiff and tight because he wasn't walking and moving as much. So find that just right balance. Utilize your adaptive equipment and mobility devices, but also make sure that you're finding some movement in your day. You're finding some time for you to stretch so that you don't get tight and that doesn't make you feel worse on your trip. I think, let's see, you said cruises, you also talked about a bus. I would look up pictures ahead of time. I would show up to the bus ahead of time. I would ask ahead of time if you could get on and off the bus. I would look at the toilet situation. How long is your flight? How long is your bus ride? Can you utilize those bathrooms? Those bathrooms are tiny. So can you practice maybe going into a closet or a small space that you can tape out? Can you twist and maneuver? Would you be able to do clothing management? That would be a great goal to talk to an occupational therapist or a physical therapist to help prepare you if you have any reservations about safety or maneuvering in them. Because we want you hydrated. We want you taking your medication. I would hate for you to not to drink any fluids for 8 hours. So to have a good plan for the bathroom. If you have the wheelchair access onto a plane, you're usually the first on, but the last off. So that's the longest time on a plane. So you might need to consider toileting needs while you're there. What if you can't make it to the toilet, you're taxiing and they won't let you get up? So I do have some people that have considered like adult briefs just to bind them more time and mindfulness. So should there be an accident, they have a plan. So there are some things that you can take some additional measures if that makes you nervous at all, just to give you a better peace of mind.
And I did just also look up Amtrak just for train travel, and they do have a disability travel services and accessible travel services site. So um, I haven't gone through it, but that's an option as well. So you can request accessible accommodations and things like that. So they do have methods in place to assist.
I have a
Know
question.
from a client's experience who's a wheelchair user, it snowed and she's from Charlotte and she was like 2 hours away. And so they couldn't drive, but she was able to take Amtrak in the snow, and her dad rode the train there to get her. And she said they were very helpful in the snow and ice with a wheelchair user. I did not ask her about bathrooms on the train, but she said the experience was a positive one.
Great. Carol, I think you had a question.
Yes, I haven't traveled on a plane since I was diagnosed. Can you use a wheelchair? Would they let you take the wheelchair on the plane?
So you can take the chair to the gate. You usually will travel down to the bottom of the gate, and then there's a special narrow seat if you can't walk down the plane. So everybody's a little bit different. If you feel fine to be able to walk onto the plane, it's nice that you can use the tops of the chairs to navigate for balance. If you don't have the strength in your legs to walk through the plane, then what they will do is there's an aisle chair that you will sit in, has a seatbelt, they tilt you back, and they roll that down the middle of the plane. And so you would be the first on, so you can get situated, they can get you nicely in place. And just make sure you're telling the transportation team how you need assistance. If you need someone to grab onto your hand or not, or if you want to do it, make sure you're just telling them what your needs are so that you can feel safer about who may be assisting you and telling them what your needs are. So I hope
Can
that
you take
answered
your
your question.
personal?
There's an aisle chair, and then they will take, if it's your chair, they will take your chair and put it underneath the plane. If it's a folding chair, I know occasionally you can ask if they can store it in the plane so you don't have to worry about going underneath. Some planes that have opportunity, it just depends on the plane and how full they are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
You're welcome.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah,
Hey, Darcy, first off, great job today. Appreciate it. You're very thorough. That was a great
Thank
presentation.
you.
Appreciate you taking time to do that. The pamphlet that you showed at the beginning, do we get that from the Parkinson's Association?
So that's the Parkinson's Foundation. I wish I wasn't blurry. I can send that to Jillian, the link, or you're welcome to contact me. Or if you just do an internet search, Parkinson's Foundation, it's called a hospital safety guide. I recommend that even if you're not planning to travel. If you have like an emergency go bag, I mean, they've got a medical alert card that you can like rip out and you can put in your wallet that says your emergency contact. It says, I have Parkinson's disease. It says, I need medication on time. Because I don't know if you've, sometimes that's the challenge in healthcare is it's hard for the nurse to get to your specific medication needs. They have like a normal time. You can have, I think there's a form in here your physician can sign saying if the healthcare team can't give you your medication on time, then they should be able to give you the right to take your own medicine or your care partner. So I really like it for that reason. And there's also a list of like safe medications and medications to avoid. So it's just an easy, here, read this. It's from the Parkinson's Foundation. Let's keep me safe. And I'm a visual learner, so I would probably do better. And especially if you're worried about your speech, it's an easier way to communicate. You can just hand it to them. You could also just take a picture on your phone to have a digital copy. So I think there's not lots of nice information in the handout. And there's multiple forms. So if your meds change over time, if you're in different healthcare situations, you can keep ripping out the healthcare form out of the booklet.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I would also recommend along the lines of medical identification and carrying your medications. If you do use a phone, your all phones, I think now, all the smartphones have an in case of an emergency setting that's even accessible from a lock screen. And I know you can put all of your medications, like list them out in there, all your doctor's information, anything else specific about your medical condition. I keep it, like I said, my son has a medical condition. So now he has it on his phone, but I also have it on my phone as well as my own information on there, just because that's something that we all, for the most part, have on us these days. Almost
Great
all of
tip.
us have a smartphone. So
I also know, and I like to share people's stories because then it's not just me telling what you should do, but I like you to learn from each other. And there's a community member, and unfortunately, he had a UTI, which made him a little confused. And when the ambulance came to pick him up, and he lived alone, so his neighbors called, the ambulance team was not familiar with him, and because he was confused from his UTI, they thought he was having a mental episode, and they took him to the psych ward. And so he had a horrible experience in like a padded room. And so after that unfortunate experience, he's going to get a bracelet that says, I have Parkinson's. And so if he's a little confused and not able to say what's going on and what his needs are, they can look at the bracelet. And a lot of times they have like QR codes, so they can look up specific information that you can have uploaded into it. So that's also an option that you can look at.
I'm sorry, I
Anybody
have
have?
another question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
If you have the deep brain stimulator, can you still go through the TSA screening machine?
Oh,
Used to-
that's a good question. I feel like I should know that. I have a client with the DBS and he flies a lot. So I can find out from his experiences, like he travels multiple times a year through airlines. So I don't know what he does in that situation. That's a great question. I almost would want to go to your DBS provider, their website, to see what they recommend, because I would hold what they say medically more important than TSA. But I think you can go to TSA, see what their guidelines are. There are contact information on the website so that you can have a plan and know what to expect. Because I would not expect the TSA representative to understand what a DBS is and to know what the right plan is. So I think if you already have the plan in place and say, I can't go in the X-ray, or this is what I need, that'll help you advocate and take ownership of your needs and help get the best service and experience.
And I can look that up too and see if I find anything, and I can send that out when I send the recording.
Jillian, where do you find the recordings after you've done them?
So I will email it out on Friday. It gets posted on our YouTube channel. Any session that we've had that we have recorded is posted on the YouTube channel. I'll provide a link specifically for this recording, but then I'll also provide the general YouTube link as well.
When you look up the YouTube channel, what name do you look up? Just Parkinson's of the Carolinas?
Yeah, I think it's, and I apologize that I can't tell you it off the top of my head. One of the things I'm still learning.
I almost feel like, is there a link to it on your website? Under
I'm sure,
resources, maybe?
I'm sure there is. And there's actually, so there are two YouTube channels. So hold on. Parkinson. I'll put a link. Here it is. So if you put it in, it's youtube.com/ let me copy this. At Parkinson Association 9525. That's the actual web address. But it's just it's Parkinson Association. If you search that, you'll see our tulip and all of that that's in our logo. But I'll put it in there to make sure that you have access to that as well. Does anybody have any last questions or any experiences that they wanted to share traveling?
Yes, just one. I know that you mentioned the wheelchair service. Just, we've done a good bit of traveling and there are never enough wheelchairs to go with the people waiting. They do a very good job of doing the very best at every airport we've been to. We're most familiar with Charlotte, but there is typically a wait. And for us, when we balance getting to the airport extra early with the amount of stress when you're waiting, and you're wondering whether you're going to get to your flight on time, it is very worthwhile for us, just for the stress factor, to get there like 3 hours before takeoff time rather than just 2, or certainly not less than 2.
Thank you for sharing your experience. That's very helpful for others to hear.
And Lonnie put in the chat that according to Google AI, that if you have DBS, that you should request to have a pat down as opposed to go through the machine. But I will double check that. The AI is hit or miss, I think, sometimes. So always want to check back on it before going with that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all well. I hope you guys are motivated to travel, and hopefully we've removed any barriers or hesitancies, because we want you to be active and getting out of the house and spending time with friends and family and continue to do the things that are important for you.
Well, thank you, Darci, for the presentation today. It was great. Everybody, I hope you enjoy your summer months. Maybe do some traveling in there. We will be taking a break for our Wellness Wednesday and our virtual support group in July, but we will be back in August for our virtual support group and Wellness Wednesday webinars. If there's anything that you need, please feel free to reach out to us anytime. I will send out the recording later this week, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.